We good?
We're good.
All right, thank you. I will now call to order the Riverside City Council meeting for Thursday, August 1st, 2024. Mr. Miller, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Denning?
Here.
Ms. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomach?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Present.
Mayor Williams?
Here. No absent members. Mr. Manager, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just two additional resolutions, 2968 and 2969. These correct administrative errors in two prior resolutions related to the police levy that were flagged by the auditor. I'll get into the details when we get to that section of the agenda.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from Mrs. Lomach to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Agenda is approved. If you're able, please join us to rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And right off the bat, we have a guest here tonight who I'm very pleased could join us. We have from the Dayton Metro Library, the Executive Director, Jeffrey Treziak, who is also, I won't give away all the things he wants to talk about, but he has a special tie to our community. And I'm very happy that he could come here tonight, talk about not just the things that the Dayton Metro Library is to our community, but things that they have going on, particularly this November. So Jeffrey, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for your time this evening. As the mayor mentioned, I do have a very personal tie to the city of Riverside. I grew up here on Beatrice Drive, right off of Troy Street, and I am a native to the area. I will tell you, I left for about 25 years and came back 3 years ago to assume this role as the executive director. My parents just turned 90, and they're still in the family house on Beatrice. So I grew up here and have a very strong personal tie. I'll share a little bit more about myself. I come from a very blue collar, very working class family, and the Dayton Metro Library was the place where I got my first library card, of course, at the age of 5. It was also the place that offered me my first part-time employment as a student worker, eventually my first full-time job, and paid for the first couple of classes that I took towards my master's degree. I'm only the second person in my family to go to college and only the first person to get an advanced degree. So the Dayton Metro Library, in addition to the city of Riverside, the Dayton Metro Library also has a very personal connection for me, and one that I consider really instrumental to my success and my development, both personally and professionally. So thank you for allowing me to say a little bit about the library today. I passed around a handout, and I'm going to go over a couple of points in a second, but I want to give you a little bit of data. The Burkhart branch was actually my first official duty as the new executive director, was the groundbreaking for that branch. And I can share with you that last year, that branch, since January 1 of this year, that branch has seen 49,000 visitors just since January 1. And it's a 13% increase over the same time period last year. So it's quite heavily used. Patrons also made use of our computers in that branch more than 8,300 times since the beginning of the year. The Huber branch, which is the newest of our branches, which is also used by a lot of Riverside residents, it's our busiest single location for book checkouts. It exceeds the number of books checked out even at the main library. So it too is also quite heavily used. And that branch has seen 86,000 visitors just since January 1 of this year, and over 11,000 computer uses. Sorry, I have terrible allergies and this weather is just absolutely killing me, so my voice is going in and out a little bit. One of the assets I think that we bring to a community is also the meeting spaces that we make available to everyone, and I know that you all make heavily use as well. There are several community groups here in Riverside, such as Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, who use the Burkhart branch for regular meetings and also larger gatherings and events. The recent City of Riverside rezoning cases that required neighborhood public meetings were also hosted by the Burkhart branch, accommodating around 100 people at those. I know the mayor is also planning Q&A sessions for the public leading up to the November election, so thank you for making use, Mr. Mayor, of the library for that purpose. And I think many of you probably know Mr. Isaac, who is the children's librarian at the Burkhart branch. I was saying to the mayor just a few minutes ago that I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful staff, but there are some people that I hear about on a pretty regular basis, and Isaac is one of those individuals. He is out in the community. He is working with community groups, with the schools, and he really does this all on his own. He's very self-motivated, and we're really pleased to have him on staff, and we promise we're not going to move him. So, which is another question I frequently get about the great staff that we have. Please don't move them. Please don't move them. We are going to have a levy on the ballot this fall. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. We currently have almost 365,000 active library card holders across our system. 71,000 of those are children. Last year, we saw in total across the county 3.4 million visits. That includes 1.8 million physical visits and 1.6 million website visits. Our website is now our busiest single location. And use of ebooks and audiobooks has risen really through the roof. We do about 10,000 programs annually. That's everything from our Pantry Partner program, where we distribute food to those who need it the most, to our story times, our craft hours, workforce development programming, just about anything that you can imagine. And last year, we saw a record high number of books that were circulated. Over 7 million books were circulated across the system. 43% of those were ebooks and e-audiobooks, 43%. So people are using physical, but they're also using the electronic quite heavily. The complicating factor of that for us is that where a print book is $17, the exact same ebook is $65, and the exact same audiobook is $95. So the more electronic use that we have, the more our expenses go up. We also lend technology. People can use laptops in-house. We had 300,000 uses of laptops last year, but we're now circulating wireless access points to people who don't have internet in their home. And we just started also lending out Roku devices. So if you want to binge watch your favorite HBO Max TV series, but you don't want to pay the subscription cost, you can come to your local public library and check one out. It has actually been 15 years since we passed our last operating levy. That was in 2009. So we feel like we've been really good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We did pass the construction bond 12 years ago in 2012. And given the use of libraries across the county, we are proud to say that we told the community what we were going to do, and then we went about and we did it. And we did it under budget. The total budget for that project was going to be around $205 million. We ended up around $195 million. The levy, our board just passed the necessary resolutions, and actually I was at Montgomery County County Commission this week as well, and they passed the necessary resolutions as well. So we will be on the ballot this fall. It's a 1 mil levy. And it's a 5-year levy. And so that'll supplement the existing 2009 continuing levy that we have. So that amounts to about 67 cents per week on a $100,000 home, or about $40 a year, or roughly $3+ a month. This is not money for new programs. This is purely to support existing operations within the library. Without it, the difference between our current expenditures and income is about $7 million. So without this levy, we'll have to cut about $7 million. That means fewer staff, fewer hours, fewer technology updates, fewer programs, et cetera. You guys are in a very similar business, so you totally understand, I think. We want to continue to do what we do best, which is focusing on kids in particular, programs that boost student learning, but also providing the content like books and ebooks and audiobooks that people want, providing access to technology, especially for those who don't have it in their home, and helping people find the jobs that they need in order to be successful in their lives. That is sort of an overview. But I'm happy to take any. I should have started too by saying I'm on my own personal time right now as a volunteer. Neglected to say that. So any questions that you might have?
Jeffrey, what are the other funding sources that the Dayton Metro Library receives?
Thank you. I will leave you with, before I go, I will leave you with another handout that I forgot to I'll just leave it on my chair when I go. We have an infographic here that explains both how we're funded and on the other side, how we spend our money. So we get about half of our budget through the state of Ohio through the Public Library Fund. So that's roughly $20.3 million. I'm sure you're experiencing something similar here, which is a decline in state funding. So this year alone, we're looking at a loss of about $1.6 million in state funds, and that's based on what they promised us at the start of the year. So to put that in perspective, $1.6 million is what it costs to run 2 of our branches. So it's as if we've lost essentially 2 of our branches in a very short period of time. Almost $13 million is from the existing 2009 levy. And then we also have gifts and grants that fund some of our, we just started a new kindergarten club and also a homework help program. Those are funded through an Ohio Department of Education grant. And then we also have gifts from the community from time to time. We're buying a brand new bookmobile, actually, which we're excited about. That's about a $500,000 expenditure, and it takes 2 years because they're all custom built. You can't, go to White Allen and pick up a bookmobile. But that is all entirely funded with external dollars, private dollars, which we're pleased with. How we spend our money is comparable to most nonprofits. About 65% of our budget goes to personnel. That's salaries and benefits. About 12% of our budget goes to materials, books. You might think that would be higher, but that's pretty much a national average for libraries. And we spend about $1 million in supplies. That includes what you'd expect it to include, but it also includes crayons, paste, construction paper, safe scissors, all the things that go into our children's programs. About $6.6 million on purchase services. One of the big items there is utilities, which of course are also, as you know, ever increasing. And then we spend about $1 million annually on capital improvements. That's mostly furniture replacement. You have no idea what people do to furniture. You probably do have some idea what people do to furniture in public spaces. So I've got a bunch of these. I'll just leave them on my chair when I go.
That's very helpful. I certainly appreciate that.
Yep.
I'll start off. I don't necessarily have a question for Jeffrey. I mean, I invited him here tonight. I really wanted us to hear from the library itself what it is that they're asking for from the community and what it is they're providing. We're very grateful that Jeffrey on his own time could come out here on a very hot and humid night and visit with us. I think like most of us, people probably mostly have a positive view of the library, and I think like, yeah, the library's fine. It's great, whatever, does some good things. I think it didn't occur to me until the first 2 months after COVID, working at a high school, and we have at Carroll High School, we have a one-to-one technology match. Like, isn't that great? Everybody's got a Chromebook. Well, we didn't realize that there were somewhere around 40 to 60 families that don't have Wi-Fi at home. They either stay at the high school after school or they go to the library. We didn't realize how many kids were going to Maine. They were going to the Southeast branch. They were going to East before they combined. They were going to Burkhart. And we realized how little we really understood about how our kids, even in our school, how our kids learned and how they were able to learn at home. And I think Jeffrey's first week on the job, I met him at the groundbreaking for Burkhart, and it was very fortuitous because that's the branch that my family frequents all the time. But I love going in there, and I see so many different folks, the full spectrum of our community, and the children's librarian is dynamite there. But I love the atmosphere in there, and I feel like it's a place, it's that third place in our community that many folks are looking for. It's not work, it's not home, or maybe it's not school or it's not home, but it's a place where a lot of kids go in our community, and it's a place a lot of kids rely on. And I didn't realize it until that event, how fortunate we are to have spaces like that we took for granted. And I don't want to take the library for granted, and that's why I wanted us to hear from Jeffrey tonight and as a group talk about, possibly giving a public endorsement of the levy they're putting forward. But that's just my story. So, anybody else?
I just want to share that I have an aunt who lived at Mad River Manor right nearby, for a number of years. She recently moved to assisted living, but while she was at the manor, she benefited from your senior outreach programs that gave her internet access and really helped her to stay connected with her church community when she lost a lot of her mobility. So the senior outreach programs, I've seen them in action, and I'm very appreciative
Thank you.
of the full spectrum of services that you offer the
Thank you,
community.
thank you, thank you. And Mayor, to your point too, teens have become quite possibly the single largest user group that we have right now, which is very unusual in a public library system. Usually, we're not cool enough for the teens to come in, but Dayton Metro Library, we designed all of our facilities with teens in mind, so there's a teen area, and the teens, they don't want to be with the kids, they don't want to be with the adults, and just having that separate space for them and having it be a safe space. Again, I grew up in a very working class home, and the library really was a safe space where I could go after school. It was the only place, and it still is the only place that many kids can go where it's safe and it's also free. And there's no expectation that they do anything there other than behave.
And it's well-resourced.
Yes.
It's. I would say I agree with you certainly. And what I learned through COVID, especially with so many young people that are in the lives of my sons, going to a school that has a full spectrum of working class kids, first generation Americans, officer sons and daughters from Wright Pat. The library is not just a place where they can be safe. It's a place where they can be safe, they can be successful, and they can thrive. And I'm glad you talked about the teen areas because, as Jeffrey knows, I have a very special connection to the teen area at the Burkhart branch that he was able to assist me with doing something in memory of my older brother who I could only walk to the Burkhart branch after school when I was a kid if Matt was with me. And when the new Burkhart branch was being built, Jeffrey and his team helped my wife and I do something very memorable for him. And I just love visiting the teen space at the Burkhart branch. And it is a cool space. It is
Thank
a space
you.
where I'm like, you'd want to hang out here anyway.
Right.
You know?
Thank you. Thank you.
I will only say I grew up, my father was a librarian, so I've
Oh, awesome.
grown up in a library. So I'm very appreciative of all the services and groups that I participate in that meet there. But I would like to say I would support a resolution to support if we bring one to the next meeting.
Is that how we do it, Josh?
I believe we've just done motions before.
Yeah, we can
And
just do
you
a
could do a
motion.
We
motion
can do it right
today
here.
if you'd
Yeah.
I'll do it.
All right, well, all right.
This will be the third time, but I'll second it. This is the third time I've endorsed something along the lines of this levy. So again, it's nice seeing you. Question though,
Yeah.
your e-book provider, is that Overdrive?
We use Libby.
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
Owned
yeah.
by Overdrive. So
Yeah.
fun story.
Yes.
When I was very young, when my uncle
Like last week? No, just
when my uncle would, I thought he
still
was
very
weird
young.
for reading books on his BlackBerry
Mm-hmm.
device. And I asked, like, what do you do for work? He's like, I work at a company that puts, like, books onto digital devices. I'm like, that's weird. Who's ever going to do that? And they brought me into this bookmobile, the Libby Overdrive mobile, and I seen, like, the first iterations of Kindles and BlackBerries and people accessing books remotely. Now that company is huge, and it's used widely, but I know it's expensive.
It is.
But you have to have a library card to be able to utilize that free service, and you're only limited to a certain amount of checkouts.
Yep.
But as a current college student, I can definitely say I appreciate those services because I don't know if you've ever looked at how much a college textbook costs, but if you can skate trying to buy them
Yeah.
or rent them outright.
see if it's available first.
It is super, super helpful. 'Cause I have about a new car's worth of textbooks that I can't
I'm sure.
give back.
I'm sure.
So definitely these services are very well appreciated. So.
Thank you. We hit 1 million checkouts on Libby last week. Last year, it took us until September to hit 1 million, and the year before, it took us until October to hit 1 million. So we're anticipating anywhere between 1.8 and 2 million checkouts just on Libby, and we have other platforms, but Libby's the big one. So our circulation right now is just through the roof.
They're headquartered in Garfield Heights in Cleveland, and
Oh.
their headquarters is really, really cool. They have a, what is that, like a Zumba class that they do like once a week. So it's
Do they
pretty
have a
nice.
teen area?
Right.
No, they have ping pong and like a free
It's an Olympic sport.
snack. I
Yeah.
love that place. I love that company. But Anyway, I seconded the motion from Sarah.
Well, any further discussion before we?
So I can only echo what everybody else says. My daughter is graduated with an associate's degree from Sinclair this coming December, and I promise she spent more time with the Burkhardt branch than she did at home last year. So really
Awesome.
appreciate you guys. And
Thank you.
And my wife, as all of you know, is an avid reader, so I'm always in and out getting stuff, and
Thank you.
it's always appreciated. So agree
I
with
have
everybody.
friends who have two teenage girls, and I don't know what the reason was, but one afternoon when they were supposed to go home, they went to the library and didn't tell their mom and dad they were going to the library. So I got a call from these friends of mine, and they said the girls just wandered off. They didn't tell anyone where they were going, and then they ended up at the library. And I'm like, what's the problem?
Yeah. Congratulations.
Right.
Yes, what's the
You're doing
problem?
something right.
Well, before we call the vote, I would just say anybody who's watching this, if you haven't visited one of the branches, and again, as I was telling Jeffrey, like Burkhardt's I feel like it's kind of my baby, and we're there a lot. But it is such a dynamic place. There's meeting spaces, there's quiet spaces, there's resources, there's wonderful people there to help. They do a food pantry. The position the library has assumed in our community in the last 20 years, especially locally, is really, really different than what maybe a lot of us thought growing up. And I would, if you haven't visited, I'd encourage those in our community to go visit and continue to utilize that service that we have. In any event,
Go visit before November.
yeah, visit before. If you're not sure about how our money's being spent, then please go visit. Visit the New Huber branch, visit the Burkhart branch, visit the main branch, and tell me that it's not money well spent for our community. So,
Thank you.
with that being said, all those in favor of the Riverside City Council endorsing the Dayton Metro Library levy this November signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
So you can add us to your list.
Thank you.
And how many
Thank you.
folks do you have on your list currently,
We have
Jeffrey?
over 30 endorsements so far. So we have, I won't go through all 30, but University of Dayton, Sinclair, Dayton Children's. We also have the mayors of all the largest municipalities in Montgomery County, the top 6. We also have endorsements of many of the superintendents of schools, a number of nonprofit organizations. So if you want to know more about the levy and about the endorsements, you can go to voteforDML.org. There are also opportunities to donate and opportunities to volunteer. So,
All
thank
right.
you.
Well, thank you for the time, and we'll get those passed out.
Metro Park, can you reach out?
I'm happy to. I'll figure out
Thank
who
you
the
all.
best person is. Thanks, Jeffrey. Have a good evening.
Can we share this on our website?
I'll talk to Katie.
I'd be happy to ask that.
I'll keep one. At the same time, well, we'll talk about it later, that children's librarian, maybe at some point we could recognize him,
Oh, Isaac, sure.
because he is everywhere.
Yeah.
And the thousands of books he's been able to put in homes is just unbelievable.
And everybody recognizes him.
Everybody
knows
knows
him when they
him,
see
yeah.
him at an event. All
So
right.
maybe we'll think about something we could do to
Yeah.
bring him in one evening and
Excellent idea. So moving right along on our agenda, we have all had a chance to look at the July 18th minutes from our last council meeting.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from the deputy mayor and a second from Mr. Joseph to approve the minutes from July 18th as published. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
abstain.
One abstention will be noted in the record for all eternity. That's what records do, you note them. We always have a portion of our agenda where we accept citizens' petitions. Once Mr. Tresiak left, we didn't have any other folks joining us tonight, but if they do show up, they can always turn in a slip to speak on agenda or non-agenda items if we haven't reached that part of our meeting yet. Speaking of which, are there any slips turned in, Mr. Miller, for a comment on agenda items?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Well, then we'll move forward on to new business. We must endeavor on. And we have one ordinance 24-0-853. Mr. Manager, do you have a brief synopsis of this?
This ordinance is the first reading of the streetlight assessment ordinance as described at last work session.
Second.
Okay. The Riverside City Council allows for the reading of an ordinance to be done by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Mr. Miller, would you please read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance number 240853, an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in the city of Riverside, Ohio, by lighting the same with electricity.
Is there any further discussion of members of council? Once again, this is the first reading of this ordinance. Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Miller, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomatch?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes. And we'll now move into our resolutions, of which we have 4. The first resolution, Mr. Manager, this is, looks to be some housekeeping, I would say.
Yes, so correcting an assessment that was made in error on a recent street project. We assessed a property owner for tree removal when the property owner had actually gone through and removed the tree prior to us doing the work. So since this is an error, an assessment that should not have been made, it's within your power to correct, and the county will honor that if you pass the resolution. So we recommend you do that this evening.
So, second.
We have a motion from Ms. Lomatch and a second from Mr. Joseph. All those in favor of Resolution 24-R-2966 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And the next one, Mr. Manager, this has to do with HVAC, which is very important on a day like this.
Correct, especially on a day like today. So this will authorize us to replace the HVAC equipment at Fire Station 6. The fire department, I want to give a lot of credit to Chief Miller and the battalion chiefs. Jim Hart, I believe, took the lead on this as well to go source quotes from a variety of different vendors and got very competitive pricing for a unit that actually represents a bit of an upgrade. It'll fit the existing ductwork better. At a competitive price. Because it is over $25,000, that's the reason it has to come to you for approval, and we recommend you approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from the Deputy Mayor and a second from Mr. Brown. All those in favor of Resolution 24-R-2967 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And the third resolution, Mr. Manager.
Third and fourth, I'll just do it once. So there was administrative error on one of the resolutions that went related to the police levy where tax year and calendar year were conflated. And because those are not Scrivener's errors, out of an abundance of caution, the county basically requested that we just readopt both of these with those corrections, and those are reflected in both of these resolutions to you today.
Move to approve 24R-2968 and 2969.
We have a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from the Deputy Mayor. All those in favor of approving Resolutions 24R-2968 and 24-R-2969 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I may, 24-R-2969 does require a roll call. That's the one that gets certified to the Board of Elections.
Well then. So, Mr. Miller, do we have a passed resolution for 6-8, or do we have to redo that on its own?
I would recommend that a new vote be taken separately for the 2969 resolution. The
Okay.
prior
Move
vote
to-
will stand for the first.
Move to approve
Second.
24-R-2968.
We already got that.
6-9.
Oh, I think so.
6-9 is a roll call.
Didn't you say
Is 6-8 the roll call or 6-9 the roll call?
6-9.
6-9.
whatever that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have a motion for Mr. Joseph and a second from the Deputy Mayor. So Mr. Miller, would you please call the roll for Resolution 24-R-2969?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomatch?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Yes.
And Mayor Williams?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. And Mr. Miller, I would hate to assume, but I would guess that we don't have any slips turned in for public comment on non-agenda items.
That is correct.
All right. So we'll move into the always brief city manager report. Maybe not always brief, but.
Well, I'll
hopefully-
keep it relatively brief.
Relatively
Just a handful of things for you this evening. The first is just a heads up. The state auditor has released new training related to fraud reporting that I believe council is also obligated to take as well. I will provide you with a link for that. There is a deadline of mid-August. That is something that we could do at a work session if you'd like, just to knock it out all at once, or you're welcome to do it all individually. But if you'd rather just knock it out at a work session, it's like an 8-minute video. And then I can get all your certificates printed and we can just do it unless you'd prefer. Okay, that's all I needed.
Sounds like you talked yourself
All
into
I
a good
needed,
idea.
that's it. That's easy. Next work session, I'm actually very excited. SOPEC should be here to give us a briefing on natural gas aggregation. There is a bit of a 101. It is a slightly different market than electric, and so they'll provide an overview of that along with just a general explainer about how the market has looked so far this year. I think they're very optimistic that we should have competitive pricing sometime this month. So I can't wait to hear from them. We will also have Woolpert here to present regarding the Safe Streets for All project and give an update about some of the community feedback that we've had and maybe some early concepts that they're working on and kind of toying around with at the start of the design process. So be sure to be here, or if you're tuning in, be sure to tune in because it's a lot of cool stuff, and I'm excited to show the community how we've incorporated some of these early ideas into early designs. Kim, Ms. Baker, and I have been working on a budget calendar. We are on a relatively aggressive timeline, but hoping to get a completed budget document to you for approval. I'll go ahead and say it, wrapped up by November the 1st, which is before the election, so that if, depending on how the election goes, we can make any adjustments to that budget that would be needed. And also just gives us an extra month in December if other things come up. But so that if everything goes, basically as budgeted, we can have it knocked out and then have a little bit of a lighter December rather than trying to rush everything in right before the holidays. So we will work diligently toward that end. And the final thing I had for you this evening is just I did want to give a public thank you to Mr. Brian Martin at MVRPC, who invited me to present to the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee, earlier this month, and then I also presented to the Executive Board this morning. I think it's the first time, or one of the first times, they've invited a community to present in that way to those committees, and so I was able to share a lot of detail about our land use plan and the Woodman Corridor project and our efforts to really redesign, redevelop, reimagine what that corridor could look like, and had quite a few people come up to me afterwards and just say how excited they are that we are doing that kind of work and trying to make our mark on the region, basically. So a big thank you to Brian Martin and the MVRPC. That's all I have.
Sarah, how did he do?
Outstanding.
I have a feeling if it wasn't the case, you'd let us know.
I have to say, I did not invite him. So I told the membership beforehand, this was not my idea. And we are the newest city, so he did a fabulous job. I had lots of people comment to me after the meeting how, and I bet 90% of those people use this road.
Oh, yeah.
One way or the other. So it was very enlightening. He was very well received, and I was very proud of Riverside, as I always am. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Make this look really good.
That's the idea. We're making friends on the regional stage.
Yes,
so.
we are.
Well, we're in the council member comments portion of our agenda because we do have an executive session planned for this meeting. Ms. Lomach, as you're now back with us, do you have any other things to add other than the stellar performance of our city manager this morning?
I'm good.
All right.
Blood drive on Monday, but I'm sure that our friend's going to come to that.
You can cover it if you
No,
like.
it's fine.
Mr. Brown,
Ooh, night out against
Night out.
crime.
National Night Out.
It's on
Yeah,
Tuesday.
That's
Tuesday.
Tuesday night.
No comments from me.
Mr. Joseph?
A little fun fact, if you're an Apple nerd, if you have an iPhone, you can now put your driver's license
Yeah.
on your
Yeah.
phone. So you double tap the power button on your phone and hit the little plus button on the top right-hand side. You find driver's license, take a quick scan of your front and back of your driver's license, and then it makes you do this like facial recognition thing, but it's a convenient way in case you ever don't want to present your license at a business or at TSA. It doesn't replace your actual driver's license, you still need to carry it, but it's really convenient and a little nice add-on that they just rolled out, so.
Isn't that a whole lot more information they're putting out in the cloud for other people to access?
I mean, yeah, I mean. As,
Change your passwords.
I mean, you're on camera, what, like 100 times a day on average? So, I mean, if you think your data's not out there, it is.
Oh, I understand that.
So-
I don't say I like it, so I just don't like to feed the birds.
I'm a millennial, so I think my life I live in the cloud.
So,
That's a good way to say it.
Touche.
Obviously, we want to see a lot of folks at a National Night Out, and if you have not attended that event before at Stebbins High School, it is a wonderful way not just to connect with other folks in our community, but also to get a chance to speak close up and personal and get to know some of our public safety officers, both police and fire, who do a wonderful job every day, all day, and like many things that we kind of talked about earlier this evening, maybe a lot of us just kind of take it for granted that we would have the types of people that sign up to do that job. So if you get a chance, please stop by and say hello. And I would imagine that Chief Robinson will be on the grill cooking hot dogs. He always is.
yes.
Handing out popsicles. And
And those are free.
yes,
And
that's
then a lot
it's
of
something we
community
provide to the
groups are there,
community.
include Isaac will be there.
Yes, it's a
giving
great
out
opportunity
books.
to meet so many folks in our community. And it's one of the times of the year where we have so many of our different organizations and agencies together. And it's a great thing. It's in Stebbins parking lot, and it's next Tuesday evening. So I will now pass along to the deputy mayor.
Well, this is opening weekend for the Mad River Pee Wee Football Association, so good luck to all the football players and cheerleaders this weekend as they start in a new conference, so. good
Stay
luck.
hydrated, kids.
Yes. That's it.
Miss Fry, you probably have nothing, so we'll just go on to Mr. Denny. Miss Fry, what do you got for us?
As alluded to by Ms. Lomatch, the blood drive is returning to the parking lot on Monday from 3 to 6. We are in the summer months, which is always a difficult time for getting our blood supply met. There's currently a critical need for all blood types. So please, please, please tell your friends. Would love to see a full roster for the blood drive. To register, just visit donortime.com, search for the City of Riverside, and hope to see you there on Monday.
And Mr. Denning.
I just want to remind everybody about Nights Out. There will be, I know that we got free hot dogs and free food down there, but also the J.C.'s will be giving out free snow cones.
Snow cones.
And a lot of organizations will be there. If you want to know about them and want to know what they do, they'll be there to talk to people. And it's your community. You need to make it your community, and you need to volunteer in your community as much as you can. And whether you're going to be a coach for the football team or work in the community and do whatever, it's your community. And if you want to make it, if you want it to be better, it's up to you to make it better. The other thing, just a question for Josh. We were supposed to get a lighted sign in front of the,
1791.
yeah.
The supplier has had some issues, and
Okay.
I don't have an ETA, but I will ask again.
Okay, I'm just curious because I know the other sign came down, so, so we don't have, there's not much out there unless we ask the high school to put stuff up on their sign. And
Right.
they've got some fairly stringent requirements for that. So it'd be nice to get that up as soon as we
Yep.
can. But I am happy to see every time I go down Beatrice in the dark, it's nice to see the lights on, so.
Mayor, there is a program at the high school on Saturday honoring the coach, naming the gym.
Yes.
Coach Coleman?
What time is that? Is it
The
12
doors
o'clock?
open at 11, and
11,
then the
and it's at
dedication is at
12.
12:30.
12:30. Community likes to come out and support a coach that influenced a lot of young people in this community positively, and so they will be naming in his honor. So we'd like to have a nice showing for that event. Thank you for letting me interrupt, Mayor.
No, absolutely.
Thanks for mentioning that, Sarah.
So at this time, we will go into executive session for the reason listed on the agenda. If I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Mr. Joseph. Mr. Miller, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Ms. Lomatch?
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes.
Thank you.
We're in executive session at